Hello everybody, I'm John, this is JP Strategic Investments, and today what we're going to do is walk through the Oakview Group opportunity for Patriot One Technologies. Now, most of you guys, if you're familiar with Patriot One Technologies, you're probably familiar with their partnership with Oakview Group, but if you're not familiar with Oakview Group, basically Oakview Group is one of the largest venue management and ownership and program providing companies out there. And they are involved in the management and operations of a whole variety, over 300, possibly even I think at this point over 400 if you include different partnerships and whatnot, but over 300 or 400 different entertainment venues, sports venues, things like that. You can see right here I have on the screen their list of clients, and it ranges from amphitheaters to casinos to arenas, stadiums, all sorts of different things. If you click on one of these here, you can just see kind of the range of different, you see the map there, that's just the US. They have other countries as well, but you can scroll through here, you can see they are involved in the management and ownership of a huge amount of different sports venues, entertainment venues, things like that, right? And so what I want to do, obviously with, we've got a partnership announced with Oakview Group for Patriot One, and we've seen subsequent to this several different announcements from Patriot One that they've been selected to protect these different venues. And so I think it's a good time to really evaluate what the opportunity is here if Patriot One going forward, we're to become basically the main security provider, main security platform that Oakview Group uses for most of their venues and especially their new venues going forward. Right now, obviously what we have here is already a huge amount of venues, but I think have more than 10 arenas in progress right now, whether they're building them or things like that. And they're also in the process of building, I think, a $3 billion venue in Vegas that's over like 40 or 50 acres. They're going to have an arena, an amphitheater, different things like that. So that's going to be huge as well. This is a growing business and a growing partnership. This should be a huge opportunity for Patriot One. So I want to walk through here and essentially what I've done is I've gone through all of these different venues here and I've created a spreadsheet of all of the different venues. You can see here arenas, I have stadiums, I've broken it down by category. And I have gone through, went to Google, and took a while, but I got the capacity for all of these different arenas. And then I've estimated what I think is going to be the amount of gateways that they're going to need to cover each of those venues. And so what I've done here, what I want to preface this before we get into how many, lanes, how I'm going about that, and we'll get into maybe possible revenue, profit, things like that. But I want to preface this with a few things here. One, I'm making a couple assumptions here. These are very rough estimates, but I think, it's time that we at least try to make some rough estimates as far as what the real opportunity is here. But I want to make sure you guys know these are rough estimates, and I'm making several assumptions here. So first of all, one of the assumptions that I'm making as far as the gateways go is I'm basically estimating about one lane per 2,000 person capacity of the venue. So you can see the first one there, Fla Live Arena, 20,737 capacity. So I'm estimating about 10 lanes, right? Because 20,000 divided by 2,000 is 10 gateways, okay? So that is kind of the assumption that I'm making. And this is based on a few things that we've seen in the past from different investor presentations. Some of the examples that they've given where we compare, how many metal detectors it would have taken versus how many lanes. And we also were given in those examples the capacity of the arena. And also Peter has kind of talked about this with the throughput and things like that in different presentations as well. I think that's a pretty accurate assumption there. I would say that's the assumption that I'm the most confident in this analysis here. The next assumption is on the pricing, and we'll get to that in a second. We really don't know Patriot One's pricing, and so I'll kind of show you what I've done there in a little bit. But I just want to kind of walk you through as far as the amount of gateways. if we just look at arenas here, right, they have a good amount of arenas. They have basically, I think, almost 100 arenas currently. Oh, and by the way, I have some of these highlighted here. The yellow ones that have been highlighted are arenas that they have already been announced that they are protecting, that have been announced and have been announced prior to, or basically already included in the backlog that we see in the earnings reports, right? If it's highlighted in green, like Angel of the Winds here, that means they've announced it, but it's not going to, it hasn't shown up in the backlog yet, and it will likely show up in the next earnings announcement. And the purple or pink here is that one, Total Mortgage Arena, they announced in November, which is in not the coming earnings report, but it'll be in actually 2 earnings reports from now. So not this coming one, but the next one. So that's kind of how I'm delineating here. It kind of helps me get some estimates for, you know, maybe what we might be seeing as far as backlog, revenue, things like that. But those are the highlighted ones. So if we just look at their arenas though, just to kind of go over some quick totals for numbers here, what we might be seeing. Arenas, by my estimates, again, if we're using 1 lane or 1 gateway per 2,000 person capacity, we're looking at almost 500 lanes or gateways that would be needed to cover all of their arenas. Now, the last thing that I want to preface this with before we get into all of these, you know, lanes and stadiums and casinos and whatever, I don't think, in my opinion, that any of us should be expecting Patriot One to get every single arena, every single stadium under contract, right? You know, for a whole variety of reasons, you know, whether that be just the location, the layout of the arena or stadium, you know, what type of area it's in. There's a whole bunch of reasons that most likely Patriot One is not going to cover all of these different venues. Also, even if they were to cover most of them, which is a possibility, it's going to take probably several quarters, even possibly 2 to 3 years maybe, for that to actually happen. So again, I don't want anybody going and thinking, you know, oh, I'm saying that, you know, next quarter or 2 quarters from now, they should be getting all of this revenue, all of these venues. That's not what I'm saying, okay? I just want to illustrate here, if they're going to become, or if they have become, essentially based on this partnership, kind of the main security provider for Oakview Group going forward, right? Then this is kind of the overall opportunity, kind of the best case scenario that we could get. And then you guys can make your own analysis and assumptions on, you know, which ones you think they possibly might get, how many of these venues, and then, you know, do your calculations from there. So just want to make that clear. I'm not saying or suggesting in any way that Patriot One could get all of these venues. I'm just laying this out. You guys can make your own assumptions based on what you think, you know, your best case scenario is, okay? Now, so arenas, almost 500 gateways per arena if they were to cover all of those arenas. Stadiums, again, stadiums are going to be generally a little bigger. So you can see the total gateways on here for a lot of these are more than the arenas. Total stadiums, 353 lanes based on my estimates. Convention centers, not too many. Again, there's some also duplicates in here where convention centers or multi-purpose complexes may contain arenas, and I tried to eliminate all of those duplicates. So there would have been, you know, if you go and look through on their website and calculate it, there might be actually more on these convention centers and multi-purpose complexes, but I eliminated those duplicates, so that's why there's kind of less here. So 5 total gateways on the convention centers, 40 for the multi-purpose complexes. Theaters and amphitheaters, we got another 26. And then casinos, there is only a couple of casinos right now under Oakview Group management. So we only have about 4 lanes there. So now what I have here, this is the final, let me just zoom in here a little bit more so you guys can see this. And I'll just kind of scroll this way. So what I have here is 3 different setups, and this is where we get into pricing. You can see total gateways estimated right now, for the entire amount of venues under Oakview Group Management right now, 924. And let me just say, I think that's actually a little conservative because one, I did round down on a lot of them. For example, the first one there, that example, it was 20,700, right? But I rounded down to just 20,000 divided by 2,000 gives us 10 lanes, right? Maybe they might want an extra lane for those extra 700 people, right? And that's not even including employee entrances that they might want to cover. And on top of that, again, as I said, they're currently in the progress of adding another 10 arenas. They are building that $3 billion venue in Vegas. You know, this is currently, I think, the amount of gateways there is probably a bit conservative, but it should be relatively accurate, at least for the current situation. Now, as far as pricing goes, again, we don't know Patriot One's pricing. We don't know how much revenue they're bringing in from each lane, different things like that, okay? But we do know, based on some of the things that Peter has said in the past and different interviews and presentations that we've got, one of the things he's mentioned is they're cheaper or more competitive in pricing than their competitors. Now, we don't know specifically which competitors he's talking about, or whether he means maybe, you know, because they use, you know, the SaaS model, the subscription, and it's only a 3-year, maybe versus Evolve's 4-year, or stuff like that. We don't know exactly specifics around that, but we do know Evolve's pricing. Actually, if you go to their website, you go to their investor presentation, and I think Evolve is probably the closest comparative technology, comparative business model in that industry to Patriot One. So it's probably the best example for pricing. We do know they give in their investor presentation here, and this is for one lane. This has been, you know, kind of similarly seen in different investor presentations that they've given, different earnings calls. One lane is roughly $120,000 in total contract value. Now that's a 4-year contract, and that's why they say in annual recurring revenue, or ARR, that works out to about $30,000 per lane per year, okay? So $30,000 per lane per year. So what I've done for this chart here is I've done a 30% discount to Evolve's pricing, how much annual recurring revenue, quarterly recurring revenue, and backlog that would work out to. I did a 15% discount to Evolve, and I did same pricing as Evolve, okay? So we have kind of 3 different tiers we can look at, and again, you guys can determine on your own what you think might be the most accurate pricing that we're looking at. One thing I will say, with Oakview Group, very large customer, they signed a partnership with them, they have a whole wide range of venues. They're probably getting much better pricing than most of the other customers out there, right? So, but again, you know, we don't know any specifics on here, but that's kind of, I'll just give you my little tidbit there to take into account. So let me show you what this looks like. So at a 30% discount, if we look at the top line here, to Evolve's pricing, if they were to cover all of these venues and it took the 924 gateways that I'm estimating, at a 30% discount to Evolve's pricing, that would work out to an annual recurring revenue of over 18 million. Quarterly, that would be 4.6 million. And total in bookings, that's basically the amount that would be added to backlog. That's essentially 3 times the annual recurring revenue, because Patriot One uses a 3-year contract currently for most of their customers. That would be $55.4 million added to the backlog, okay? At a 15% discount, right, the second line here, that would work out to $23 million in annual recurring revenue. Quarterly, that would be $5.7 million, and total added to backlog in bookings would be almost $70 million. Finally, if we're looking at basically the same pricing at as Evolve, that would be in annual recurring revenue almost $28 million, quarterly almost $7 million, and in total bookings Total added to backlog over $83 million for all of these venues. Now again, this is for every single venue currently in Oakview Group's portfolio. Obviously, we're probably not going to see that, but you guys can make your own assessment on how many of these venues you think they're going to get, and which ones that you think they're going to get. Also, let me know in the comments below, what you think of this analysis. Especially let me know in the comments below what you guys think is the most accurate pricing and why. Give me kind of your reasoning there, and we can try to, work that out on our own, whether it's the 30%, whether it's the 15%, or whether you think it's closer to same as Evolve. And definitely leave your reasoning there in the comments below. But this is, I think, kind of pretty important, and based on these numbers, even if we're looking at a 30% discount to Evolve, a pretty significant opportunity for Patriot One here. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this analysis in the comments below. Obviously, like the video if you found it helpful, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great day.